All right, this is the parable. We've entitled The Parable of Manna from Hell. It's written by a community development worker who is involved heavily in Nicaragua and part of our church, our broader church. And he wrote a newsletter to the broader church explaining a story that played out where they were working. And I'll just read you what he wrote. It's easy to write about success stories, much harder to write ones that are heartbreakers. The story I want to share takes place in the village of Wimanak, a community that is made up of about 800 inhabitants and located on the Rio Coco, about 80 kilometers from the nearest road, electrical outlet, or policeman. CRWRC, the Christian Reformed World Relief Committee in Nicaragua, and our partner, Acción Médica Cristiana, AMC, have been working in this area for the last 4 years together, promoting preventative health, sustainable agriculture, and disaster risk management. Last week, a small aircraft crashed in Wimanak. In fact, it crashed on the AMC Agricultural Training Center property. The cargo was cocaine and money. It's unclear how decisions were made, but apparently the money was distributed within the community and 3 other neighboring communities. And the cocaine was likely converted to cash by reselling it to drug traffickers. Overnight, the community was transformed, but not in the way that we had anticipated. Merchants from the closest town, Waspam, 80 kilometers away, descended on Wimanak, bringing with them all kinds of products for sale, from clothing to generators to chainsaws. Whereas before I would have had a hard time buying a pencil in a barter-based economy, now DVD players can be purchased for cash. To give you an idea of how much money is circulating, a woman was arrested with $80,000 in her bag in Waspam. This is a story of how poverty collides with fast, easy money. Crime moved in quickly, evidenced by armed robbery by outsiders making raids on homes under the cover of night. One person was fatally shot a couple of days ago. AMC closed down its work in the community for security reasons. And even though it's planting time, there is little motivation by the community to work. And the abundance of chainsaws will undoubtedly impact the environment once the cash runs out. It's heartbreaking because Wimanak was one of our flagship communities that we work with amongst the 28 communities in the program. Straddling the Nicaraguan-Honduran border, the river was well known to be a corridor for drug trafficking, moving drugs north and money south. The plane crash was therefore not a surprise, but the reaction of the community was. Concealing money related to drug trafficking is highly illegal in Nicaragua. What happened to the leadership training we invested in these people? Why didn't the authorities intervene? In a conversation with Francisco Gutierrez, the director of AMC, he shared that it was quote, painstakingly clear that unless there is an underlying biblical worldview, our community development efforts are in vain. When New Hope member Rob Bronson first sent me that newsletter and told me I had to preach on it, well, he didn't tell me I had to, but Rob knows if he sends really good stories to me with a little question to get me cued in, it'll end up being preached on. He asked in his email this question: are all the riches that we're blessed with any different than a plane falling from the sky loaded with cocaine? I thought that is a profound question for us in this Western world to consider. How different are the relatively quick riches of winning the lottery and being born here as opposed to there or in Africa from this? How different is the exponential potential to earn money and gain wealth through our employment, again because we ended up here, any different than that, than money falling from the sky? Yes, we work for it. We work hard in our city for the wealth that we get, of course. But lots of people on this planet, 1 billion people on this planet, work just as hard, and they get nothing. And their rate of return is not even close. And they barely eke out an existence. And are left often with very little to show. The truth is that if you're living here and born here, relatively speaking, money comes easy. And perhaps, at times, too easy, too quickly, or too lavishly. And often, not all the time, it's not evil, it's the love of money that's evil, but often this coming too fast and too quick into our lives can lead to a kind of diminishment of who we are as human beings. And ironically, very often, none of us will disagree. It doesn't matter how much we have, we can sometimes be dissatisfied. The psalm writer says, the poet, the Hebrew poet, "Surely everyone goes around like a mere phantom. In vain they rush about, heaping up wealth without knowing whose it will finally be." Don't think the Nicaraguan village Calgary parallel is a fair one. Why is God's more than enough not enough for us? Why are we always, or seemingly often, finding ourselves struggling to scramble for more? Like kids around a piñata when the piñata breaks. We just, gotta get our piece of the pie, our candy. Or Boxing Day shoppers in front of the Best Buy. Or bull market investors in front of the New York Stock Exchange. Or Nicaraguan villagers gathered around a crashed drug plane. Just trying to imagine what that would have been like. These villagers 80 kilometers away from anything, this plane crashes and they see this. And somebody goes running back to their friend and they just start, a frenzy. The immediate ecstasy and buzz of cocaine, or the thrill of a big fat wallet and investment portfolio, or the rush of a quick hookup, or a new TV, or a chainsaw, won't even come close to the union and the sense of buzz and ecstasy that you as a human being and that we as human beings are made to know in our connecting to God through Christ. They won't even touch what we're ultimately meant for. And yet, because those yearnings are so strong and they're made to be met in the complexity of who God is and the immensity of who God is, because it's meant for something so big, when we aim it in these wrong directions, we just go crazy consuming things that can never fill what only God is meant to fill.
Come on, you weary with your heavy load. Lay down your burden, find rest for your soul. 'Cause my yoke is easy, my burden is kind.